Hey guys, Ryan here, and today I'm going to be bringing you two replays in the Draugen Lansen Sea. Now this was a tank very generously gifted to me by Spandex. He wanted to gift me something with high explosive memes to play around with them in, and he was going to gift me the Turtle light tank with the 122mm derp gun, but that wasn't on offer, so he couldn't gift me it, so he gifted me the Draugen bundle instead because of Hesh. So apparently one of the best tier 8 tanks in the game. This isn't my first game in the tank. I'm going to be showing you my second and third game in the tank. Unfortunately, I didn't play on the day that Spandex gifted me the tank. My next time playing was kind of late evening, early morning with Darth. And the first game to be in Ensk, which is a map I never get when I'm in heavy tank, but always seem to get in light and mediums. Now the Draugen. This is a tier 8 game, by the way, so I'm top tier. It's known for having really good APCR pan and fast APCR, and most importantly, having Hesh like a Centurion 7-1. So, premium Hesh of 210mm of pan, which is great, and cheap Hesh that you don't have to pay lots of silver for, with 105mm of pan, which is still really good. 105mm pan is more than enough. A lot of people go APCR and premium Hesh and don't carry any of the cheap Hesh. I do, just because it hurts me to fire premium Hesh at like a Death Star or a Waffly 100 or a light tank, etc, etc. So I bring cheap Hesh, just in case I'm shooting a lightly armored target like I am here. So now I've got the cheap Hesh loaded. You're going to see, there's this light to my left, light to right. I'm going to drive through here and get round the light tank. And get away from the Vanguard. Unfortunately, the enemy light tank's actually blocking me in right now. So the Vanguard gets all his shots into me. But he's reloading, I've got Hesh loaded. So bit of a low roll at 416. This thing has 480 average damage on the Hesh. But, oh well, I'll take that trade. Now something to note about the Draugen, it's not the most maneuverable left and right, and it's not got the fastest top speed, but it has got a really good power to weight ratio. And something else to note, the DPM is not great, the reload is actually very slow, compared to other 390 Alpha guns at tier 8. For example, the Type 59-2 fires faster than this thing does. But this thing, obviously, as I said, you can up the Alpha with the Hesh, and also you get a lot more standard pan. So you're going to see I'm still keeping the cheap Hesh loaded, and I'm just basically a cheap fuck. Like, I don't like firing a lot of gold rounds. I'm trying to get over the fact that, like, you know, I actually get less pan with them, so it's not as bad, but I just don't like firing the expensive Hesh, as I said earlier, at tanks I don't need to. So here's a cheap Hesh shell, KV-13, pen him in the side for 488. Now, the jammer's coming round, I've got the reload. Currently taking a lot of time. I get round him, auto-lock. I missed the back of his tank, and instead of hitting the flat part, I splash on his engine deck. But because it's high explosive, I do still set him on fire, which is quite nice. Our team is absolutely shredding at the moment. Cheap Hesh into the lower plate of a UDES for 449. Again, a low roll, but this is what I mean. Even the cheap Hesh is really good. And for my second game, I'm already decided I was loving this tank. So big thanks to Spandex, because you all know I love my high explosive memes as well. I mean, I play full HE Machine and full HE Vanguard sometimes just for shits and giggles. So actually having decent high explosive for once on a tank is pretty good. Usually I play tanks with shit high explosive. This thing with its really good high explosive is very good indeed. I've loaded my first APCR round for the bone shit because I thought he was going to turn around. What's going to happen is he's actually not looking at me. So if I had Hesh loaded, I would have been able to pen him in the arse. But I went to the APCR round, which means I missed out a little bit of damage, and we pick up the win. Now, not a crazy result. My second game, I just thought I'd show it because I got a few decent Hesh pans with this cheap Hesh. But I was top tier, so, you know, it's not that big a deal. 103,000 credits profit because I didn't fire too much of the premium Hesh. Most damage on both teams. Darth came top with 4 kills and second most damage on our team. But the next game, straight after, is Encounter Battle of Malnovka Winter. And this game is going to be a tier 10 one. So, a bit more even, shall we say, considering I'm in what many people consider the best tier 8 medium. And I kind of agree with them. It's not for not very good players, because you don't really have the armor to survive, and it's not outrageously fast, so you can't really outrun other medium tanks. By the way, if you look, we've got 3 tier 8s, they've got 1, there's a whole bunch of tier 9s and 10s. Not that big an issue. Darth is in his tank this game, so he's got a bit of a HE meme going on at the moment. And what's going to happen is, I was going to make my way up the hill. But Spandex and the other lights are going to spot field, so I'm going to go generally towards the direction of the hill, so that I can get there if the enemy try capping, but I'm going to try and support the light tanks. Something else I've got to mention, 10 degrees of gun depression on this tank as well, which again, very nice. And although I said the armor isn't great, and it isn't, you don't want to rely on it, you can pull off some miracle bounces in this. I've seen people bounce T-30 shells in the Draugen. And later this game, I am actually going to bounce a Kampfpanzer 50T shell, which is 270mm of pen, basically. So, don't rely on your armor, but at least you're not being overmatched, so some people can bounce. Put in my initial position, I've got the cheap Hesh loaded. By the way, if you look at my ammo loadout, 40 APCR, 10 premium Hesh, 15 cheap Hesh. I think at a later date, I actually changed my ammo loadout to 35 APCR and then 15 of both Hesh. Because with this thing's terrible rate of fire, 35 APCR is more than enough. I unfortunately don't pen that light tank, but 227 damage isn't bad. But, yeah, this thing's rate of fire, you're never really going to run out of 35 APCR rounds, and this thing does carry a lot of ammo, which is amazing, because when you have really good high explosive, you want to be able to carry lots of ammo. It's a problem the FV215B and Super Conqueror struggle with, in that they often get Hesh, which is nice, but they tend to run out of ammo quite often, so you're a bit screwed if you want to bring a decent bit of Hesh. I hit the enemy tank with a blind shot with Hesh. I very much doubt that I penned him. In fact, I could see that I only did about 200 or so damage to him, about 230. So, no pen there. But I can pen a Kampfpanzer 50 on the side. He only has 40mm side armor, and that's the thing I want to get across to you. You don't have to fire premium Hesh. 105mm of pen is enough to pen a lot of mediums and even some heavies in the side. I've decided I'm going to move up to join Darth. I'm going to use the 10 degrees of gun depression to go hold down here. And all the artillery's dead, by the way, so I don't need to worry about artillery. Which this thing does not take arty shells well, because the armor is relatively thin. Try to snap a shot in, because I'm spotted and I don't want to stay where I'm at. Backing up. And unfortunately what's going to happen is, I'm getting ready to support Darth. I unfortunately get spotted, and I take a blind shot because I couldn't spot the light tank. And unfortunately, Darth is going to get ship-barned. And now this Kampfpanzer 50T is driving right at me. So I hit him in the turret, which isn't where I wanted to hit, so I do 41 damage. And now I'm loading APCR, because I know this Kampfpanzer is committing on me. So APCR's in. Get the drive wheel shot, but the Kampfpanzer is going to repair, and I'm going to drop down. Teammate tells me to fall back, so I'm going to drop down somewhere he can actually, hopefully, support me. This Kampfpanzer wants me, though. Thankfully, he hits my tracks and doesn't actually pan. I get another shot in. Angling towards him. You see he actually bounces off the turret because of the shape of it. And he has 270 pounds. That's what I mean, like, don't rely on your armor. But in terms of the front of it and the turret, you're not getting overmatched, which is nice. So you can get miracle bounces. And the side is 40mm. You only get overmatched by 120s plus caliber guns. Cheap Hesh shell, not fully aimed, pen on the UDES turret for like 490 damage, and I damage his ammo rack. Still got the cheap Hesh loaded as I go for the light tank. Auto lock him, pick him up. And now there's a Super Conqueror up here, so I think, yeah, now I'm going to load the premium Hesh. 210mm of pen this has. What's going to happen, though, is that's a bit of a mistake, because I'm coming up, and I'm going to try and get, like, the interrupt and splash the super conqueror. I'm going for splash damage, and it doesn't matter if I use premium or cheap, they're both the same. So that was an expensive shot for no damage. Moving up, and you're going to see the exact same thing again. We've got plenty of time, but I'm the closest one up here, so I'm just going to interrupt the conqueror. But what that means is, it's going to be a very expensive interrupt. Because you're going to see, I can just see his tracks, so I'm just going to blow his tracks off to interrupt him. That again was a very expensive interrupt. Now, with Premium Hesh, I can pen the side of the Super Conqueror if I can avoid his tracks. But as he drives out, I'm a bit too low, and unfortunately do hit his tracks. The good news is, now that he's just fired, I've got teammates with me, I'm going to go behind him and get the ass shot on him. So sneak behind, aim for the engine deck, straight in, and a fire. At the same time, I think I could have penned that with the cheap Hesh. But, you know, Hesh is Hesh, it's all fun. And just overall, for my first couple of games, I absolutely adore this tank. Gun depression, good enough speed, okay accuracy, okay aim time, decent standard pen, fast shell velocity. It's just, I can understand why people call this one of the best tier 8 premiums. Now we're just chasing damage at this point. I'm pretty confident the light tank is going for artillery. And I just love this bit in because I want you to see that, as I said, this tank has a top speed of like 50 kilometers an hour, I believe, which isn't bad, but for a tank as lightly armored as it is, it's not great. So the power to weight ratio helps you moving across, like climbing uphill and everything, but cleaning up, you're not going to be as good as, say, I don't know what one of the faster mediums is at tier 8, if I'm honest. A CDC, for example. Already managed to shotgun the light, and that's how that game ends. And again, this game wasn't a particularly crazy damage game, but in a tier 10 game I think I did alright, and I was just kind of, again, trying to get some nice Hesh pens on people. 120,000 credits profit, even though I wasted some expensive Hesh shells. 3,100 damage, 756 assistance, 3 kills. Thanks to being a tier 10 game, I actually get a first class for that. And overall, the Draugen, a tank I feel comfortable, even against tier 10 tanks. So, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all in the next one.